Today, Zebec is joined by Shaf Shaikh, who has extensive experience in the crypto and blockchain and adjacent sectors, including roles at NEAR Protocol and Kraken. Shaf, welcome to Zebec's Future of Money series. We are truly honored to have you on and are very excited for the conversation. As a starting point, we would love to get a little bit more about your background and your involvement and interest in the crypto and blockchain sector.
Hey, Neil, thanks for having me on. So happy to share a little about my background, kind of how I got into the space. I started off my career in private equity as an investor for about 5 years. First 2 years were at Northwestern Mutual Capital, where we had about 40 billion under management and invested approximately $4 to $5 billion annually into companies with EBITDA 15 million and up. It was a really cool space to be because you got to see a bird's eye view of the entire economy. However, I had a late night Reddit scroll in 2016 where I learned about ETH and learned about kind of what its goals are and how it's going to try to transform the world. I was a little skeptical at first, but it really, gave me some chance to learn about the use cases and decided to buy GPUs in my free time and started building mining rigs. So my first foray into the space was actually through mining. And then when I moved to New York City in 2017, I had the chance to go to crypto meetups 4 nights out of the week. And while I was working in private equity as my day job, and from there, haven't really looked back.
That is quite a fascinating journey. I think, Shaf, that you're probably not the only one that developed an interest in the crypto and blockchain sector through Reddit, because there certainly is a wealth of knowledge there at many times and on many topics in the space. So let's start our conversation out by thinking about a high-level question and posing this high-level question to you, which is, what are your views on digital assets and blockchain-related topics generally? And let's say maybe more specifically, or the second part to the question, which is, how do you see the application and the connection between digital assets, crypto, and blockchain and some real-world issues like payments?
Sure. So adding context to this, after working in the space and private equity, my experience lends itself specifically into the exchange space. So right after PE, I joined Kraken Digital Asset Exchange. I was the first hire under the head of strategic finance, and then worked at NEAR Protocol afterwards as the head of strategic finance there. So with that in mind, my experience being a little bit more focused around that space. Back in 2017, I felt like the entire industry was about a mile wide and an inch deep based on the level of work that's been done. And fast forward to today, we're about 2 miles wide, about 2 inches deep and everything, which is fantastic to see how much the space has grown since then. I think in this space related to payments and looking at how much it's grown is at its core, Bitcoin, blockchain, it's the ledger, but it also allows people to have effectively their own wallets and transfer, Bitcoin, ETH, or whatever token of someone's choice. They're able to transfer it from one person to another or one wallet to another. And, we're able to then, utilize it. However, the issue we've been coming across is that hasn't been used as a peer-to-peer payments tool. We've largely seen it between users transferring funds from exchanges to their own hot wallets. We haven't really seen it as a peer-to-peer play. So while we've seen it in the Web2 space with Venmo and with Cash App, we haven't really seen it as much in the Web3 space there.
Shaf, you bring up a couple really interesting points. Number one, you mentioned this idea of ownership and control over one's funds and over one's money. And you also kind of touched upon the ease of transactions that are fundamental in the blockchain. And both of these points are really core to the ethos of Zebec. And as you know, we introduced an instant card, which really gives folks autonomy over their personal funds, whether that is sending it to other wallets, sending it to family members, or keeping it within their own wallet. And the other thing is just the ease of transactions, right? I think we know that in the traditional finance system, things are slow, things are extremely and many times onerously expensive. And at its core, it's just a very convoluted and complicated system to what should be really quick and efficient financial transactions.
Right. And that's been a big piece of Web3 that I'm hoping will continue to get a high degree of focus on as we continue to build this space. in order for everyday consumers to come on, we need to simplify the process and we need to make the applications that people use much easier to use. So for example, if we want someone to leave a fantastic Web 2 product and move to a Web 3 product, the experience needs to be better and it needs to have a stronger case of why this is better and more important for the user to come in and use. And that is something that companies need to focus more on. And so the other issue that I've noticed that people have struggled with has been also fees. If you look at ETH fees, if you're not using any other component related to ETH for scaling, your fees can be quite high, which has resulted why other layer ones have popped up when people are using their own respective hot wallets for those.
Absolutely. Fees are certainly, I think, a top priority for users of blockchain and crypto products. And we're trending in the right direction as an industry compared to traditional finance. If you think about ACH fees, or if you think about just the amount of fees and cost and time associated with a simple checking of a physical check, it really is kind of over the top. And crypto and blockchain certainly helps to address this ongoing product that really has been there since the invention of the banking system itself. Because I think one thing that we're seeing is there really hasn't been innovative disruption within the financial ecosystem for the last many, many years. And people are excited and people are moving towards crypto and blockchain transaction offerings and financial offerings because they really do just get to the core of what people want financial transactions to be: quick, efficient, fast, and low cost. So let's talk about what your view is on the industry, a little bit more on the long term. So how do you think the industry is going to change maybe in the next 3 to 5 years? Is there something that you expect to come pretty soon? And maybe what's a blockchain use case that you think is very viable in that same time period, the next 3 to 5 years?
So there's a lot here that I'm really excited about in the space for the next 3 to 5 years. I think a lot of blockchain is going to be focused on growing the infrastructure side, but there's some areas that excite me. One is going to be the improvement of the consumer apps and consumer facing solutions. One being, as all these platforms such as banks, consumer apps that Coinbase and Kraken have created, as well as hot wallets that you're seeing, I think everyone's going to start converging into a similar area where you're creating effectively hot wallets that allow users to own their own financial freedom. That is one angle that I'm really excited about and have had the chance to be at the forefront when I was working at Kraken, and also other consumer apps while I was at NEAR Protocol, where we had great companies such as Sweatcoin using our platform in the back end to allow users to utilize and to grow without really needing to know that they're using a blockchain at the back end. So I think one piece is consumer. The piece I'm looking at is the infrastructure side. So that includes potentially a multi-chain future where multiple blockchains are part of the blockchain ecosystem. There's also going to be a lot of interest and demand on building on Bitcoin. I also think decentralized compute is going to be really big too. So you're going to get a push away from potentially using AWS and Google Cloud, and potentially having decentralized compute where it allows for truly pure decentralization effort for blockchains that having concentrated mining on these larger cloud providers. And I also think that tokenization of assets, real world assets, will also be a big piece. And having the ability to settle real-time gold, real estate, or any illiquid assets with T+0 and immediate settlement time is really exciting. So these pieces are really exciting for me. I also hope that fees are better managed and that will really promote usability in the space. So I think there's a lot of really good pieces here that are going to come in the next few years.
Well said, Shaf. I think one of the really interesting things that you touched on is the adoption of crypto and blockchain services and products. And I think one of the things that's really attractive for consumers is there is kind of an expansion of the services and products that are available to them. And B, there is this reduction in fees. Both of these play off each other really well. And I think ultimately, one of the reasons why we're very excited about our instant card product, as well as our just general payments infrastructure, is that we have been able to address a decrease in fees. The instant card is essentially at a negligible cost to users, particularly when you think about it in comparison to traditional financial costs, whether that's ACH or other methods. And then B, ultimately, the instant card is specifically geared towards the consumer. So we're hoping to see a proliferation, not only of a card like Zebec Instant Card, but other similar financial offerings as well.
No, that's great to hear. As we develop these great applications, users need better experiences and they need to be able to have something that they can easily utilize. And I feel like in order to get mass adoption, we need to make it as easy as possible to use. And we have started to see that with potentially having people using usernames instead of, super long wallet address names, and really creating a very social and very easy platform to use. I firmly believe, had an opportunity to be on the consumer side of crypto, we need to have either a better experience than Web 2 and also have more legitimate use cases involved in there. So potentially, as we look at future blockchain, adding in addition to being able to buy, sell, and transfer your assets to others and having limited to no costs, is looking at beyond DeFi, looking beyond NFTs, looking beyond staking is what else can we do and what else can we offer that really promotes the Bitcoin space, that promotes like the use cases that we just can't get in the traditional fintech setting right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Shaf, what do you think is going to be the iPhone moment for blockchain technology and assets, or maybe positioned in a different way? At what point do you think blockchain and digital assets will sort of be entrenched in the daily life of the vast majority of folks? And perhaps it's not any specific moment in time, but it'll be that perhaps it is the passing of a certain law or the creation of a crypto ETF in the United States. So curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes. So I kind of see this play out in two phases. We'll start getting these quick jerk moments in our industry where you, for example, see ETF approvals and suddenly it shows maybe a naysayer or someone who didn't really believe in technology for the past 10 years saying, hey, look, why would you consider this? We don't need a technology like this. We already have a great system, to thinking, wow, okay, so this went from being a sham that we thought 10, 15 years ago to something that's very real that all these investors are starting to be able to invest in. I think those kinds of moments are catalysts that help promote the change and the shifting from being considered early adopters to becoming in the growth phase for blockchain. I think as we continue to get those moments, that's going to really drive additional more interest and innovation in the space. The next piece is as we start thinking through better use cases and blockchain, it may not all be consumer. It may be a lot of back-end infrastructure pieces there. And in this case, that will be something that consumers don't even know that that's being improved. The settlement times for blockchain are much better than having settlement times with multiple middle. So it may be the case where suddenly people are getting their assets settled immediately. Or if someone owned a part of a fund that invests in real estate, gets their assets immediately in normally a highly liquid place. So you will start seeing efficiencies in place in our ecosystem that people just won't even know. And I think the moment we know we've made it is when you start seeing a lot of compute, a lot of infrastructure utilizing Web3 in the background and blockchains, but people just don't even know it. So I think that's going to be like the aha moment in the back. But in terms of key moments, it's going to be a series of small little catalysts that keep pushing us forward. And we've already had the chance to see it over the last 5-10 years to the stage we're at today. But I do think we still have a few years to go before we get that aha moment. However, it is really exciting to see how far we've come and starting to see already large consumer apps like Sweatcoin using it. People starting to use the Coinbase app, and also a lot of these hot wallets where people are starting to use them as apps now on their phone. So I think there's some really good pieces we're starting to see, but if we still are, we're a few years away from getting the right infrastructure in place and the right consumer apps in place where people can come in and utilize this easier than it would be to use something on the Web2 space.
Very well said. I think we're all extremely excited about the future of this industry, right? Because we can see a really impressive rate of advancement almost on a daily basis, where you see a continual improvement of many of the things and the key themes that we touched upon, whether it's an expansion of consumer focused products and service offerings, an increase in the efficiency, whether it's related to time or cost, and also just a smoother user experience and better user interface, which I think will drive a lot of adoption to the sector for consumers that maybe aren't as familiar with crypto and blockchain offerings or simply haven't had extensive exposure. So all really, really interesting things. And we're all very excited to see where the next 3 to 5 years hold for all of us in the crypto and blockchain sectors. So Shaf, it was amazing to have you on. Thank you so much for being part of the Zebec Future of Money series. Thank you for sharing your views and insights, not only with us, but with everybody listening today. And we hope to have you back on sooner rather than later.
Thank you for having me, Neil.
Thanks, Shaf. Take care, everyone.